Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I am very excited about our first podcast today. Stan Pruitt's here with us today. He's involved in so many different things. I've known him for about 10 years, has it been?
Yeah, time flies.
Is it more? It's more than that. My little girl just turned 10, and she was, about 10 years, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 10 years.
2008 or 2000, that's when I moved up here.
Yeah, and I was living over there by you in 2011.
Okay.
And that's when I first started coming out of my addiction, and you were helping me through that, and that's how we became friends. You really stood by my side during some really dark times of my life, and you were able to see what we were going through, and we talked about this before. When it was so bad in my addiction and with my wife that we were going through a divorce, and you were a big part of helping me at least show the love that I needed to show my wife, because I was very angry during that time.
Yeah.
And full of hatred and full of anger and resentment towards my wife, and we went to court, and I had been clean and sober, and she was still struggling. And I remember looking over. I was upset and mad, and I look over at you, and you had tears in your eyes, and I'm like, why are you crying? And you just you told me, you go look at her. You have somebody here with you. You have a lawyer here with you. You're clean and sober. Obviously, she's still using. She's here alone. She doesn't have a lawyer. She's all alone. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that too well. It did. It breaks your heart. You came through what most people don't. You overcame a drug that most people can't overcome. So you were like the super success story, and you had turned your life around. You turned to God. You'd put your hands in God's hands, and you were on the mend. And I remember that day you wanted me to be there during the court proceedings of your divorce. And I remember she walked in, and you mentioned, where's her lawyer? She said to you that she had a lawyer, and she showed up, and she said she was representing herself, and that's when it really hit me that she was at rock bottom. And at that moment, I knew things were really dark for her, and you were on the mend. And I remember as we walked out of the courtroom after they, finished the divorce, we walked out, and you and I were walking down one side of the sidewalk, and I watched her walk out, and she walked out to the street, and she just sat down on the curb. And I looked at you, and I said, Steve, she has nothing. And you said, I still love her. I love her beyond life itself, but I can't let her drag me and Stevie down, your daughter. You had to make that decision.
It was one of the hardest decisions that I had to make, because I did have that deep love for her, but it wasn't about us anymore. It was about our daughter, and I had to make that decision. And as hard as it was, I've seen so many people fall back in with each other, even with kids involved, and I just didn't want to be that person where my daughter ended up in state care, or, God knew what I needed.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what I needed. And I often wondered at first why he would send a baby to me in the worst possible time. I mean, we were sleeping in our Durango in a field with an extension cord around to our Durango. And I don't think I ever told you this, but the night before court, Melissa went and took all the stuff that I had, my skis, all my stuff, to go buy a lawyer. She had her friends, the ones that were, the ones I'm talking about, selling all my stuff to get a lawyer. well, the money never made it to the lawyer. It made it to some other place, if you know what I mean. And so that's why she didn't have a lawyer that next day,
Yeah.
because she couldn't even make it. But that was the first night that she prayed, because she was kind of coerced into a lot of the protective order stuff and all the stuff that were involved with, with that whole situation. Unknown to her that I had been building a case because I was going to protect my daughter over everything. It didn't matter what people thought of me, of calling the police or whatever it was. It didn't matter to me. The number one thing was I was going to protect my daughter, period. I didn't care what anybody said. I didn't care what anybody said about me. I was going to protect her.
Yeah, so I remember at that moment I said, Steve, hold on. And you stood there, and I walked over to your wife, or at that time she would have been your ex-wife. And, she was just crying. And I told her, I said, Steve loves you. He wants you to get help. I said, you're at the end. There's only one way to go, and that's up. And I said, but you have to make that decision. Nobody can make it for you. And I think that's when she did. I think that was the moment she realized that here I am sitting on the street corner on the sidewalk, and I have nothing, nowhere to go, nothing to do. So I think that was the turning point. And now I look at the success story you guys have. You're both overcome some of the worst drugs known to man. You have a successful business. You have a podcast. You have a wonderful wife. You have a sweetest little girl. Life is good, isn't it?
It's fantastic, and I've always been a very strong-willed person, racing motocross and skiing, competing in these different things. And all through my life, I've been a pretty confident person in my abilities. And I tell you, I really lost a lot of who I was through all that. And I didn't have a lot of friends. And most of the people, when you're in addiction, your friends are addicts, and they're not your friends, And when that day, when I seen you, most people in that situation are like, forget her, just like her friends were doing to her, he's just trouble and da-da-da. They weren't trying to help our marriage. They had different motives to break us up. And so that's the first time I realized I had a true friend in you. And when you were there and you loved me and you loved my wife at the same time without any judgment towards either one of us for any of it, and you were letting me stay at your house, you were doing all these things to help me through this. And that's the first time that I actually felt like I had a true friend in 10 years of addiction. It's the first time I felt like I had a true friend, and it meant more to me than you'll ever know.
Thank you, Steve.
And what you've done with your son sitting next to you, that what you have done for that kid and the way you have changed his life and loved him and give him everything that you have and all the things that you've taught him. The difference from when I first met him to now, it blows me away what you and Shawnette have accomplished as a family.
Yep.
It always inspired me. To watch you guys was my inspiration to want to have that kind of an atmosphere for my family as well. So I took when I was staying with you for those 3 weeks I did stay with you, I took a lot away from what you were, the way you were with your family, the things that you were doing, and I still use those and lay them in place with everyday things. I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, but no, that's the beauty of this life. Everybody will hit a rock bottom of some sort in their lives. The most important thing is that who's there for them, right? Yeah. And now you've turned around and you're that person for so many others. Your life is a perfect example of how to overcome and accomplish and become something, with your life. And the only deciding factor to success or failure is up here.
Yeah.
You know, we all can succeed or we can all fail. We have to choose. Doesn't matter what life throws at you, you can overcome it. And so you're that story where, you know, meth, most people can't get over that. You're living under a bridge.
Yeah,
You know,
that was fun.
You know, you're homeless. You just had a baby. Your wife is, you know, your marriage is falling apart. That's rock bottom.
Yeah, but living on a bridge, I had acreage though. I got to pick how much
view was
acreage I wanted.
incredible.
It wasn't really terribly expensive. So, you know, I did have some ups there. You know, I got
You got to look at the bright side. You got
Yeah.
to look at the bright side. But that's the thing is that for everybody on the planet, you know, in today's world, we've got so much conflict and so much hatred building up. But there are certain entities that are building that hatred in us, right? We're not innately hateful. You know, when you look at two little kids playing, it doesn't matter if they're black, brown, yellow, purple, whatever. You know, they are loving just naturally. That's the way kids are. We teach them the hate and the, you know, the disrespect and stuff like that. And so nowadays there's so many people out there that are thinking that, oh, the world's so dark, the world's so hateful. But no, we are that light. Each one of us is a light to someone else.
If we could only harness that and excuse me, and really show people and inspire people that you can be the difference in the lives of so many different people. I think you and I are a lot alike in that manner. Mm-hmm. That we have a love for humanity. You know, there's a lot of people out there that just hate.
Yeah.
And you know, they're no good to themselves. They're no good to anybody. And that's the one thing that I've always admired about you, that you've talking about hate and all that. And that's where, even though that you're a very religious man and you really follow your religion very tightly, you're also involved in some other things to protect your family. And, you know, one of them is Urban Survivor.
Yep. Kind of going back to what we were talking about, you know, so many people don't allow themselves to succeed. And you and I are kind of the same cloth. You know, we live life to the fullest.
Yes.
I don't have time to sit and watch TVs a whole lot because I could be doing something. I know so many people who work, they go home, they eat dinner, they fall asleep in front of the TV. That's their life. When they die, you know, and we're all up there in heaven, you know, what stories do they have to tell? You know,
right.
Well, this one time on Gilligan's Island, you know, I saw this episode where it's just like, no, come on. You know, I want to be able to say, I've been there, done that.
Got to make it matter.
Exactly. So like my favorite saying is that you live life once, and if you live it right, once is enough. My other favorite saying is that someday your life will flash before your eyes. Make sure it's something worth watching. And so with that gusto, with that zest, I want to do as many things as I can. I want to experience so many different things. So you and I, we both ski. You're that motorcycle racing nut. You know, I've ridden motorcycles, I've done dirt bikes, but I'm not like you. I'm not doing a Superman off no jump. No, you know, I'm getting too old for that kind of stuff. But yeah, done the martial arts since I was a kid. Paintball, backpacking, kayaking, mountain biking, off-road racing. You know, why not?
Yeah, why not? You know, it's how you live your life, and you know, it's a gift.
Yep.
You know, and you only have so much time in this life to do what you want to do, and you got to live life to the fullest. And yep. It's vitally important, and it's something that you have to kind of roll over into and instill into your children as well.
Yep. So I remember as a kid, you know, my parents kind of instilled that. We did a lot of things. We did whitewater rafting. We did skiing. We did a lot of hiking and backpacking and camping. And then my father and mother always taught to watch out for those others. So when I was a kid, what got me started in the martial arts was that my second grade teacher called me the peacemaker. And that was a nickname that followed me through school. I was the peacemaker. Whenever there was a fight, I was in there trying to break it up. And I became friends with this one boy who was blind. He was legally blind. but he was the biggest boy. I mean, in sixth grade, he was like 6'4". He was this massive guy, but he couldn't see. But the kids used to pick on him. And I remember several times getting in fights just trying to defend him from guys that were bullying him. I remember this one fight, we were walking home together, and these bunch of boys surrounded us, and they're really blindy, man. You know, they're making fun of him and stuff like that. And my big friend is crying, and he doesn't know what to do. And so we were back to back, surrounded by all these other guys. And I'm ready to fight. And Dave knew I was going to fight for him again because this has happened several times before. And Dave, he wanted to help out, so he kind of whispers over his shoulder, "Let me know when they're in range," because he can't see him, And sure enough, this kid comes up to shove him. And I said, "He's in range." And Dave just did this massive bear hug, squished the guy, and lifted him up over his head and threw him.
That's funny.
And so, of course, that episode ended. But then another time, same boy, I was defending him during recess, and I got my butt handed to me. And I suddenly realized, if I'm going to be defending the weak, or my friends, I need to learn how to fight.
It helps.
Yeah, it does. And unfortunately, the karate school was being, there was a karate school, but they met on Sundays, and Sunday's a day of rest, so my parents wouldn't let me do that. So I'm like, I got to take karate or something, I got to learn how to fight. Then one of my best friends, his father was a Green Beret. So that was my first martial art lessons, was from a ex-Green Beret.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I started, that's what I started in high school, learning from him. And then I thought I was pretty good. I went into college, and I thought I'd do kickboxing. I did all right. And then I met this guy who was a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo, and he cleaned my clock. And that's what's good. I always look at, anytime you have a challenge in life that humbles you,
yes,
it's a good chance to reset.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to refocus, And so you that defeat turns into motivation to become better.
Yeah, failure is a huge part of success.
Exactly. You have to have a high failure quotient to succeed.
Yes.
The more you fail, the more you're going to succeed.
Exactly.
But there's that point where some people will fail, and then they'll give up. They'll say, "Okay, I've had it."
Yeah, I'm done.
And then that's when they lose out. It's like, I always knew that God would never test me beyond my capability to overcome. So no matter what life threw at me, I knew that God promised me that I would overcome it. So, on this comical side, the second-degree black belt in Taekwondo lights me up. I'm like, okay, I need to learn that. So that was the next style that I studied. I went into Taekwondo, went into Muay Thai, went into Hapkido, got third-degree black belts in all those, then did Haikuta, and then did knife fighting. And then, you just keep adding to that repertoire.
Yeah, and what's funny about it is when the one time that I did, you invited me over to one of your classes, and I'll be honest with you, I was always pretty good in the street. About 20 years old, I was bullied a lot through elementary school, and then I started defending myself, and I hit about 20, 21 years old, and I really got into street fighting a lot.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad. And I was taking Taekwondo and some different things, and I would always go in, and I would always hand my sensei their butt. I just would go in, and I just did it on purpose, because I was really pretty good. And then I get in there with you, and I just, looking at you, you don't look like the person that I thought you was.
I'm not an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and so you told me to grab a knife and come at you, and I remember, okay, and I'll figure out something, to counter on you, and I threw that knife on you, and I think it was a pinky or finger or two or something like that, and I remember spinning around, and and the ceiling was kind of going like this, and lights were going this way, and then all of a sudden I'm spinning back this way, and pretty soon one leg's this way and one leg's that way, and I've got an arm behind me, and I'm over there, my head's twisted to the side, and I'm shoulders almost out of socket, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, I'd never had anybody hand me my butt like that ever, and I was so blown away. I felt like, honestly, I still remember that moment. I felt like I just got in a fight with my dad, and I'm like 4 years old, and I just fought my dad, and it was really pretty funny, and I really respected your ability, and what you brought to the table was just amazing. And I thought, gosh, this guy is such a survivalist, and that's what I really followed you a lot on that, and what you do in your 72-hour packs and all that stuff that you do.
Yeah, got to be ready.
Got to be ready, and that's what my wife and I are working on now. And going through addictions and going through different things, that's a hard part, because I ended up getting in some trouble during that time, and one was a fight actually right down the street from where I live right now. Mm-hmm. I ended up in a fight with my wife at the time, her boyfriend, and I got arrested right out in front of this house on that road right there.
Wow, I'd move somewhere else to get rid of the memories.
Well, and I beat him up pretty bad, and he was a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, 6'1", 220. He was also a two-time Golden Gloves boxing champion. Mm. But I was just in such a rage in that moment of, that's kind of what started my whole addiction, was this woman, and it was just crazy that I ended up living right here. Yeah. And so.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that so that's one of my favorite hobbies. And when I was living in New Mexico, I worked in the weapons program by day. So I worked for the federal government, but you work 410s. So in the evenings, I ran Urban Survivors martial arts, business, and we trained law enforcement and military how to do hand-to-hand combat and stuff like that. Also, I'm a big shooter. I thought, well, how better do I, once again, live life to the fullest?
Right.
How do I use this, and how do I make sure that I'm teaching these officers stuff that really works? So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to join the police academy. And she goes, well, you have a full-time job. I said, yeah, but I have my Fridays off because I work 410s. So what else am I going to do with my Fridays? Oh, be with me and we can go travel, but no. So I put myself through the police academy there, the New Mexico Mounted Patrol, works for the state police, so that I could go on duty on my days off and make sure this stuff works, right?
Right.
Application. And so that's what I did. I even retired when I left New Mexico, I retired as a lieutenant in the New Mexico Mounted Patrol and worked with the state police. Every Friday, I would go down to my district, get in a police car, and go serve the community. I didn't take money for it because I was trying to give back to my community, but I wanted to make sure that what I was teaching works. And sure enough, yeah, boy, our county, Rio Arriba County, was a pretty hot pocket for drug, gangs, MS-13, all those. It was never a dull day. Let me put it that way.
Well, I think that's a big part of what we're dealing with now, with all the things that are happening in our society, with all the hatred and everything. You've got to be prepared. And like I was telling you, getting in trouble during that time, I'm working on it, but I'm not able to carry a weapon at this point. So how do you protect your family? When you're not allowed to carry a weapon, but so what do you do?
Well, that's the thing, is that you've got a lot of weapons of opportunity. You've got, one, know what's around you at all times. Just be aware and avoid trouble. I always tell people the first rule of self-defense is don't be there.
Right.
Just avoid the trouble. So if you can't avoid the trouble, then you need to know how to back that up if you have to.
Right.
And, so it's for your family. Like when I go out to eat, You know, when I go sit at a restaurant, I'm not paranoid. My son thinks sometimes I'm paranoid. But when we go out to eat, I will pick the bench table, and they'll all
Looking
be
in
in
the
towards
door.
the wall, and I will be facing the wall. And after being a police officer for 17 years, you just get in the habit of scanning everybody. So my assistant instructor, his call name is Grim. I'll call him Grim. He and his wife and I and my wife went out to dinner one time. We've gone out to dinner actually several times, and it was funny because the hostess brought us out to the table. It was a bench, you know, and the wife slid in, and then he and I were kind of looking at each other like, all right, who's going to take the spot, right? Because we're both thinking the same thing.
Right.
And he goes, all right, you cover that side, I'll cover the back. You know, we just knew what we were thinking. So I slide in. We're sitting there having dinner, and out of the blue, he goes, so who's all packing in here? And I said, there's 6 people packing. He goes, yep, that's what I caught too. Because, you know, you're watching. You know, when you're a cop,
Right.
when you've been a cop for a while and you've been on the street, you kind of notice how to scan people. Who's packing, who's not, you know, what are the options? Where's my egresses? You just kind of, if people can do that, that's the most important thing to safety. You know, if something's going to go wrong, you have to know where the exits are, what to do, how to handle the situation, and don't panic or freeze up. Most people will freeze up. You know, even police officers, sometimes when something's really happening, they just, oh my goodness, it's happening. There's a shock.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. It's actually happening. You know, this, I'll give you a story, but my partner and I were out on patrol in our patrol vehicle, and we pulled this car over. And inside the car, we didn't know it then, but there was 3 Mexican nationals. Okay? A lot of drugs running through that county. So we pull him over, and he walks up on the driver's side, and I walk up on the passenger side. So I walk by, and I'm looking in the back seat, and I see the guy in the back seat, and then there's the driver and the passenger. Well, the passenger had a knife, about a 7-inch knife down on the floor in his hand. And as I walked up to that door, both doors, the driver door and the passenger door, flew open at the same time. And this guy spun out with this knife to stick me. And a Kevlar vest is not going to stop a knife. It's for blunt trauma. A knife will go right through a bulletproof vest. So he spins out there with this knife to stick me, and it just snapped. Action, you know. I just immediately pop up front kick. Boom! I kicked him right in the chest, knocked him back into the door jamb, and then I squared off. Because I had a taser, I had OC, I had a baton, and I had a gun. But you don't have time to grab one of those when the schmuck's going down.
Right.
So he falls down into the door jamb, and suddenly he springs back up, and he comes at me with a knife. The knife's in his left hand. So, you know, everything goes into slow motion. Right? So I'm going over for a left-hand knife defense because he's got this big arc coming with a knife. Well, this shows that he was a real knife fighter because he switched hands in mid-strike. That arm's coming up to slice my neck open, and all of a sudden he goes, he tosses it over to his other hand. My hands are over here, and now the knife's over here in his right hand, and he's going for my neck.
Oh, man.
So I brought up this elbow, slap trapped, wrist lock. I spun around. To this day, I can still hear his face hit that asphalt. You know, slammed him to the ground. I dropped my knee in his back, cranked the knife hand with the wrist lock, popped the knife out, grabbed my cuffs. I'm cuffing him up. Then suddenly it just went like, whoa. You know, it hit me. It was just like, wow. It works, right? And then I suddenly realized, oh, my partner, crud. So I go running around the car to see what's going on over there, and my partner's on top of the other guy, just grounding, pounding the other guy. I don't know what happened over there, but he's winning. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go shut the cameras off because this is going to get ugly. But no, then I realized, oh, there's still a guy in the back, and finally I draw my pistol out, and the guy in the back seat of the car goes, whoa, I ain't having enough of this, man, none of this. And the comical thing about this is, I wish I still had the picture, but when we did the guy's little photo, you can still see my dusty boot print on his black T-shirt, size 13 foot right there. It was, but that's that at that moment, I realized this stuff works.
Yeah, and it's more important now, I think, than ever to get involved in some kind of training for your family, your kids, getting your kids involved. My wife and I have been talking a lot about her getting into self-defense, Stevie getting into self-defense. She's 10 now, and you never know where evil's going to lurk. You just
Right.
you don't know. And I try to teach her, and it's so much. At least it is for me. It's harder to teach your kids than it is someone else. They seem to want to listen. They listen to everybody but you. And
What? Wait, did you hear this?
it's how it is, And I play guitar, that, and
Yeah.
so I try to teach her, and she won't even sit up, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But she goes to guitar lessons, and she's all intuitive and into it, and I'm like, why can't you be that way when I'm trying to teach you?
Because dads don't know anything.
Because dads
right?
don't know anything, and I'm like, you realize that I played in bands for like ever and a day, and I've raced bikes and I ski. I can teach you all this stuff. But it's just
Yep, I can't get my kids. I can get a couple of my kids into martial arts, but I can't force them. But they, why, Dad? This is so dumb. And I keep saying, it is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Whether it's a gun, martial arts training, a knife, a gas mask, whatever it is. If you don't have it when you need it, that's when you panic. So to create that ease, like you said, you train. Everybody should do what they can. What I hate is I do these seminars all across the country, self-defense seminars. We've run shoot houses. I'm a firearms instructor too. I did shoot houses. I'm SWAT certified, all that kind of stuff.
right.
So we do all this training, and I get over and over and over again, these guys go, well, I just carry a gun. I'll just shoot them.
Yeah,
And I'm
I've
like,
met them.
you're an idiot. Because a guy, once they get in close proximity, they can mess you up with their fists, their hands. You may never even be able to draw that gun.
Right.
And, you may not always have it with you. So if that's your crutch, which it becomes, then you're useless.
You're in deep trouble.
Yeah, you have to learn you have to be the Swiss Army knife of humanity.
Right.
You have to know how to do a little of everything.
Yeah.
And if you can do a little of everything, then you're going to do well. You're going to succeed. You're going to survive. And
A lot
like
better chance of it for sure. Yeah, and that's what I try to teach. Because having a daughter, having daughters. All I have is daughters, and you have two of your own, and
three.
Yeah.
I have
That's
three
right,
daughters.
3 daughters. That's right. I forget you have the older daughter,
Yeah.
and you worry about them constantly, and more now than ever. You see so much stuff, especially with social media and all the network, all the outlets, the social media outlets. You see so much stuff that it just paranoids you. Plus, I was an EMT for many years, and seen so many things. The same thing with you being a police officer. You see so many things that it starts to affect you in your personal life, and people don't understand that.
Yep.
I remember I wouldn't let my kids eat any hard candy. I wouldn't let them eat hot dogs. I mean, I was, because I've seen so many freak accidents and freaky things happen that it just, everything that I seen, I tried to protect them from. But then I realized, you're holding on way too tight, bud.
Yeah.
You can't hold on that tight. You can train, but the key thing that I think that you have to teach your kids, their friends, everybody, and you know this more than me, that you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times.
I feel sorry for the guy who ever tries to, threaten my daughter. One of my daughters, she packs a knife. She's like me. She packs a knife always, but she also packs a tool. She's got her Leatherman on this side. This is a girl. She's got her Leatherman over here, which I do. You carry a Leatherman for opening cans and cutting strings and stuff like that. But then you have one of these guys, which is its only purpose is a fight knife, right? And it's only got that purpose. It doesn't cut string. It doesn't. My daughter can pop that knife out faster than you can blink. And she does it to me all the time. I'll be, I need to cut this paper. There she is with this. We've even got her in a video, where we're doing one of our self-defense videos, and she's walking along, and I jump out of the bushes like, I'm a big mugger or something like that, and she reaches back and whack! There's that 4-inch blade, and she's like, back off. I mean, when a girl pulls a knife on you, really reevaluate your intentions.
Right, exactly.
And she's like, back off. You're going to back off. And even if a guy can knock a girl to the ground, knives work great at that level. You may not be able to index a gun and pull a gun out, but you can index a knife and pull a knife out and start stitching.
Right.
And once you get a couple stitches into the neck with a 4-inch blade, that pretty much destroys your motivation to do any harm to someone.
That makes a difference.
Especially when you're gurgling. And I'm sorry, is this a PG conversation?
Yeah, we haven't edited that yet. We're still on that. But yeah, it's funny how society has changed and how we have to reevaluate the way we do everything anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, life has changed so much for all of us. This last year, this pandemic, I've seen so many people going through depressions and going through all these different things, but I don't see a lot of people like taking advantage of the time, and I don't understand that. Mm-hmm. They just sit home depressed and tired and not do anything with their lives. And I think that we really need to make that's why I wanted to do this podcast, why it becomes such a passion project for me. Not only talking about extreme things that we do, but talking about inspirational things. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I first did this, it was an inspirational kind of a layout of a podcast, because I think inspiring people is so vitally important to the direction that all of our lives are going to take. And you're a huge example of that, of inspiring people to do things that they normally wouldn't do.
Get out of your comfort zone.
You have to, and that's a really important thing. You have to get out of your comfort zone in order to move forward.
Yeah, I think that people. Another one of my favorite sayings is that you've got to develop a persona. You have to become outside gentle, inside strong. And that's the true martial artist, is a guy who's got the talents and abilities inside. He could clean your clock any day, but he's outside gentle. We need more of that in this world.
We do.
People who are peaceful and loving, and they will go the extra mile to bring in that peaceful coexistence with other people. But yet, if it's going to turn to violence, they're the last person you want to mess with.
Right.
Because they're that inside strong. And I want to help people develop that. And that's what we do in our martial arts classes and in our seminars we do. We try to teach people to be, confident inside, no matter, and several of my students, I have an older gentleman who came to our classes, and, he walks with a cane, and, he can barely get around, but he wanted to learn defense. So we tailored it towards him, what he can do. And it started building a confidence in him that I hadn't seen. And then he would call me later and he'd say, "You know what, Stan, I've really taken this to heart. And I'm walking, I'm exercising and stuff like that." And over a year period of time, he'd come to class still with the cane. He goes, "Yeah, but I really don't need it anymore. But you showed me those cool cane techniques. It's a great weapon that I can get on an airplane with." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, more power to you." But, that's the thing, is that change of mind and heart. We can become anything we want to. People feel like we're, the victim mentality. We're a product of our environment. We're a product of this. We're a product of that. We're a product of politics. We're a product of... No, you're not. You are what you want to be, or whatever you want to be. Set that goal, become that vision, and then go out and do it. It takes hard work.
Yeah, it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. And you said that to me. It's funny you mentioned that, because I remember when I was going, because when we first met is when I was first coming out of my addiction and I was struggling. When you come out of something like that, you're not yourself. You've lost your confidence, your self-respect, your integrity, all the things that are important. I was all worried about, the house that I lost and all the vehicles, and, that's the stuff that I was concerned with. And then I had a friend of mine come up to me one time, and he said to me, Steve, I remember the night I got to go hang out with Steve Ray. And, you hear this guy who was larger than life, you're this pro motocross racer, and you're in these bands, and you're this pro skier, and he goes, I was hanging out with you, and he goes, I was like a little kid, and I didn't even know he felt that way at the time. He goes, and just hanging out with you was so cool. And he goes, and this is during my addiction, he told me this, and he goes, what happened? And when he was telling me this, it actually turned me to where I was back to that person again for a minute, and I was smiling, I was that person again. I wasn't, but in that moment, I was that person again. And then he looked at me and he goes, what happened to you?
Oh, man.
And it was a gut kick. And in that moment, I realized that everything, as far as any kind of, materialistic thing, just did not matter anymore. What I lost the most was self-respect, integrity, all them things. And when I met you, the one thing that I'll never forget, you looked at me and you go, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a victim, or do you want to be a survivor? And in that moment, I made the decision to be a survivor. And that's a huge reason why I'm sitting here today, right now, is because of what you told me that day. I'll never forget that. And the impact that you had on me when you told me that. You don't even know a lot of times what an impact that you have on people. Did you know that?
No. Thanks for sharing the story.
But yeah, when you told me that, it totally made. I'm a survivor, and that's what I'm going to be, and that's why I'm right here.
That's the whole purpose of life.
It is
not to just survive, but to become that inside gentle, outside strong.
Right.
So that we are when we're outside gentle, we're lifting everybody up.
Yeah.
With us. We need more of that in this world.
We do.
It just gets so. You get people, especially with this COVID-19 stuff going on, we've all become hermits in our house, and we've lost touch of reality. What's the real world like? Because it's so, the masks also kind of hide us, because I notice I like to smile at people. Everybody I meet, I smile at. One, there's two reasons for it. One, when you walk down a street, if you say hi to every person you meet, like, hey, how you doing? Hey, oh, hey, good day. Hey, right? One, it projects positive energy. Two, it projects self-confidence. Is anybody going to mug you when you're walking up to them and you're looking them right in the eyes and you're going, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Right?
Right.
If you're walking by and you're looking away, that's that victim state.
Yeah.
And the mask hides our smile. It hides who we are. It makes us impersonal objects walking down the street. And it's very difficult for me to communicate with people.
It is for me as well.
So when and I teach this in our self-defense class, when we do these seminars, I said, if you don't want to be a victim, walk down and look at everybody in their eyes. One, it's threatening. It goes back to the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
The alpha males and alpha females can look at the others in their eye, but the other ones always shy away, right?
Right.
Well, when you look at someone in their eyes, it's intimidating. I mean, it really is. I walk down the street and this one guy comes out of the shop and he's walking down the street, and I could tell he wasn't very confident. And so he's looking away. He didn't want to make eye contact. And that's what's the beauty of cell phones for people. It's a crutch.
Yeah.
I'm going to hide behind my cell phone. Oh, a human is coming. I do not want to interact with this human. I am so busy.
Yeah.
Right? They're doing something on their cell phone so they don't have to interact with you. And then when you say hi to them, it's almost scary. He communicated with me. Oh my Lord, what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
And so this guy comes out of the store and he immediately sees me. So he's got to find his cell phone. Oh yeah, got to do something, right? And so he's so and I walk up and I walk him right by and I say, "How you doing today?" That's the reaction. It's just like, yeah, hi.
Yeah, it's sad that people are that terrified of life.
Yeah, it's just that we've got all these crutches, and so we hide, and so we stop being human, we stop interacting. And then also, if somebody does have bad intentions, and you're walking down the street and you look them right in the eye and you go, how you doing? Are they going to go, yeah, let's mug this guy?
Yeah.
No, let's go
true.
find the guy who's looking at his cell phone and not paying attention. We'll clock him in the head and take his money. But when you're going, hey, dude, what's up? You got that evil grin. Well, it's a good grin, but, it's like, what you're really saying behind it is,
Yeah.
don't mess with you, I'll mess you up, right? And I can't do the ventriloquist thing, but that's...
You did it pretty good.
Oh, thank you. I'll try it some more. But that's the whole point, And so this whole COVID-19 has shut us up in our rooms. We've lost track of reality. We don't know how to deal with each other anymore. So when we do get out there, we're all strung out and we're all ready to pounce on each other, whether you're wearing a mask or not, or whether you're doing this. Oh, you don't agree with me. You don't. Oh my goodness, we've become such a contentious society because it's so easy to be a keyboard warrior behind your laptop and offend people because you don't see the damage it does.
Yeah, you don't.
When you punch someone in the face, you can see the damage it does, right?
Yeah.
But when you're behind a keyboard and you're insulting people, you don't see what's going on.
You don't. It's like I told my daughter. I'm like, honey, you don't realize, because she's struggling a little bit right now with bullies at school and stuff like that, and she's trying to find herself. She's 10.
Give me their names and numbers and all.
Take care of that for me. And she, and I just told her, I says, honey, you've got to you've got to learn to control your actions and not be so emotional. And you have to protect yourself from all these entities that are going to be coming at you. But I kind of lost my train of thought here.
Well, what this would be a good segue is that we need to give people more opportunity to find themselves and find that confidence. And whatever it is. For you, it's motorcycle riding, which is something I could never touch what you do, or skiing or mountain biking or whatever your hobby or your passion is, go and do it. Throw yourself into it, and build that confidence. And then when you're interacting with people, like I said, be that confident people. Even if you don't feel confident inside, start trying to do it and just kind of fake it the first while. And then it starts to come more natural. It's scary the first time you're walking down the street and you go, hi. It's scary for some people. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. Hey, how you doing? Hey, yo, welcome. Hey, woo, yeah, you're right. And then you break down that ice and you start building that self-confidence. So for Stevie, for example, when she's being bullied, project that self-confidence. Teach her how to project that self-confidence. And it's hard for her when she's, being made fun of or whatever. But if she shows that air of, you're not hurting me, I'm okay with me. And then you as a parent, you've got to always have that relationship. So at nighttime, you talk to them and say, so how was school?
Right.
Did anybody bully you today? And then you talk to them about it. And so that they have that avenue to vent, to get their feelings out. Yeah, this guy was bothering me and stuff like that. I mean, this guy here, he's got lots of friends now. He's a popular kid now. But I remember in middle school, we were at this one middle school where he was being picked on a lot. And I told him, I was trying to teach him that outside gentle, inside strong. Just be fine with yourself. Just ignore them. Walk away. Don't be there. Some of our rules of self-defense. And I unfortunately got called to the office with the principals a couple times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't blame him because he sees dad,
Right.
Doing all this martial arts stuff. So this one kid came up to him, they were sledding on this little hill and pushed him down the hill, right? And I always said, son, turn the other cheek. Don't get in a fight. Don't do this. Don't do that. And, well, Cody here marched up that hill, cold cocked the kid in the mouth. Pow! Right? So there I am in the principal's office with Cody and with the other parent and their kid. And Cody was getting all the blame. Oh, Cody came in and hit this kid. And I said,
Right.
oh, time out. What happened what led up to the punch. Because I know Cody, he doesn't just go up and randomly punch people in the
somebody in
kids.
the
So
face.
finally we found out that the kid shoved him. And I said, well, that's, I'm not excusing my son's behavior. We'll talk about that at home. But, I'm going to stand by my son.
Exactly.
Because if you're going to go and start shoving people and becoming physical, we're going to turn our cheek only so far.
That eliminates a lot of the people being bullied too. I believe that you, like exactly what you're saying, you teach your children to defend themselves, and when they have to do that they're able to do it. And I think that would eliminate a lot of the bullying. It was for me. When I got bullied, the only way, it was bad. I was going home every day crying, lumps on my head, beat up every day in the 4th grade. And then finally my dad pulled me out, and I'm thinking that I'm going to go to some big, private school. And he put me in the worst school possible and made a weight room for me and just trained me for a year and sent me back to school. And the first day back, the same bully came up and started bullying me, and we got into it, and the guy wore a body cast for 9 months. And
I teach them, I said, if someone's bullying you, there's something deeper is going on
in their life, and you got to look at that.
You got to have that compassion. But there's a point where you can try and love them, you can try and understand them, you can be compassionate, you can walk away. But like going back to my childhood, what are we to do when me and my blind friend are surrounded by 4 other guys, right? What can we do? Well, that's the time when you have to step up.
Yeah. So I kind of want to talk about some of the other things that you've been involved with that really I kind of thought was kind of cool. What are the other things that you are involved in that you're?
So outside of my regular day job, I work for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Correlation Department. Love that job. Work with great people, doing some great things. But then on the side, I still run Urban Survivors, the Tactical Martial Arts Training Center. But we're also putting out a new TV show. I've hosted the Top Truck Challenge on the Motor Trend channel for a number of years, and that was a blast. And now we're kind of shooting out into a new territory where we're giving people the opportunity to become that Rambo that they've always wanted to be. The kids are all playing Halo and Forsyth or whatever it's called. What is it called? Fortnite. I'm thinking front sight. Obviously, I don't play games on the video. So, anyways, all these video games, they run around these first-person shooter things. Well, we're giving them an opportunity to actually do it for real.
Instill the confidence in them.
Yeah, see what it's really like. So, back in New Mexico, we used to run this adventure race. It's a race. It's called the Recon Challenge. It's a 7-mile race up through the mountains of New Mexico. And you're carrying paintball guns, your equipment, your food, your water, everything like that. And it's a race. You had a 5-man team, and you had 3 objectives along this race course. So it's not only you got to have top endurance because you're running the whole way.
Right.
You've got to be a good shot. You got to be able to take care of yourself, and you've got to take over these objectives. But then we smatter the course with snipers. We had armored vehicles driving around, So all worth points. And so you get points for how many snipers and bad guys you take out and objectives you capture. But then at the end of the race, it's also about how fast you went through the race.
Right.
So that was all fun and dandy. But now we've put this to a TV show, kind of in the same vein of like Forged in Fire, where you have these teams come forward. So we have 2 3-man teams that come to each episode. So each episode of this TV show, it's a new mission. It could be rescuing a downed pilot, recovering a drone that fell behind enemy lines, or escaping from a prison camp, or infiltrating a terrorist organization. Each episode, the mission is totally different. So you have these 2 3-man teams, and they're going to compete against each other, but not directly. Okay, so they each get to accomplish the mission, but the bad guys are my team. The Omega Team.
The Omega Team, huh? This sounds pretty tough.
Yeah, so I've got some real badasses, some guys. I have for the pilot show, I have one who's from the ex-British military. I have a Marine. I have a guy from the Army, and I have my assistant instructor and myself. So we make up the Omega Team. So some skilled vets who have some real world application behind them, and then they play the bad guys. And so each team faces them in these scenarios or missions. So we have the pilot going out. We're hoping that a TV show will, a network will pick it up.
That would be amazing. That would be. I actually had a chance to see your trailer, and I was really impressed with it. I really think that it's something amazing and gives people an opportunity to be trained and to build their confidence and get back out, from this COVID-19 thing and do some amazing things. I really liked it. I really liked the platform of that.
It's kind of like a first person shooter video game, because we're using simunitions. So the rifles they're ARs basically that shoot a paint pellet. We have marker knives, so we do knife fighting with these marker knives that mark, and then we also have grenades, we have claymore mines, we have mortars. I mean, we make each scenario as realistic as possible. And of course, if you do get shot, we have these armbands that you get. Each person has one to start, and then along the course you can find others. It's just like a video game, Oh, there's the life pack,
But you're not sitting there with a controller in your hand, and I think that's what's vital, that you're out there actually doing something, and that's where we have failed as a society with these video games. And gosh, man, I remember when we were kids, we'd get up in the morning, get on our BMX bikes, and we're jumping over people, and we're doing all these amazing things, and you knew when to be home when the street lights come on, and
yep.
It was. I mean, we just go, and we were always doing something. You know what I mean? And now, I'm blown away when I see a kid out playing. I'm like, hey, look, there's
a guy.
There's
outside.
somebody else outside, and what we have done is we have ruined it.
Yeah, my childhood was the same way. We were down in the canyons playing all the time, and we knew when to come home. I could hear my mom call sometimes, but sometimes we were down in the canyons. But we had pine cone wars. We'd get our wrist rockets with pine cones and shoot at each other because paintball wasn't invented then. Too bad. Oh man, that would have been fun. And we were out there we'd get those plastic baseball bats and we'd build suits of armor. I kid you not, with trash can lids or whatever, and we'd have these big, huge SCA type battles down there and pine cone wars, and we're playing commando and all sorts. We built zip lines off of cliffs. From trees to tree, we'd get pulleys and we'd make little handles and we'd crazy stuff.
Right.
But we were always outside doing this stuff, and it taught us a lot. We survived it. That's what's amazing.
Well, and you look at that, and people that don't follow that kind of code of living, and you see where they're at. Compared to someone that's lived kind of like we live, racing bikes, out doing the things we do, and you run into so much depression and I do not like to see people hurt. That's my biggest thing. My wife says, "You don't cry a lot," and I says, "If it's something to do with me, it doesn't affect me because I know I'm in control of my own actions, and it's like even during my addiction." I never really cried a lot because I'm like, this is all self-induced.
Yeah.
But when you see people out there and they're so alone and they're so depressed, it really, I want to really help people make that change in their life and go out and do things. That's really the biggest reason why I started this podcast, is because I wanted to mentor people, I wanted to inspire people, and I wanted to, and this podcast is more than just a podcast. We're going to be I'm actually getting a new bike. I'm going to be racing the over 40 pro class, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to go all the way,
butt.
train, and I'm going to do the same thing with skiing and showing people, even at an older age,
Yeah.
that you're able to come back and do these things and live your life.
Right.
Because I fell into this kind of dark place for a little while, not too long ago.
Yeah.
And, I was really struggling with what I wanted to do. And when I decided to do the podcast, it gave me a really a deep purpose again that resonated deep inside to make a difference in the lives of other people. And that, to me, if you're not doing something every day to make someone's life better, I think you're kind of wasting your time on this earth. I think it's important to.
And you can do that. You can do that through so many different venues.
You can.
know, for example, back to the we did the tactical training. Once a month, we would open up the paintball to the public, and we would just set up these capture the flag paintball wars. Well, I got whole families coming, to play paintball. We averaged 65 people a game.
Wow.
So that makes pretty good teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially the youth. The youth would come out because this was a chance to get away from the computers and from school and whatever, and just go play Rambo, And it was a blast. And in a way, I didn't realize that I was touching lives there too, because years later, there was this one kid who showed up, bad attitude. He was kind of one of the druggy kids. He was and he cheated. He always was cheating, but we stuck with it. And then, sometimes he couldn't afford paintballs. So I said, hey, afterwards, help me clean the guns and I'll let you play for free. Right. What's cool is that he graduated high school, went off to college, whatever. Years later, I get a phone call from his mother. And she said, Stan, I want to thank you. I'm like, for what? She goes, well, I'm so-and-so's mom, and he used to come play paintball with you. I was like, yeah, I remember him. Well, you turned him around. I'm like, playing paintball? She goes, well, you gave him something to do and somewhere to focus, something to focus his energy on, and you also showed him how to be a gentleman. He just graduated with an MBA in electrical engineering.
Oh, amazing.
I thought he was going to be dead on the sidewalks somewhere with an overdose, the way he was going through high school. And now he's a mechanical engineer. An electrical engineer. I was totally blown away, And then on a comical side, I remember this one family showed up to play. There was the father and the mother and like 4 kids. And, he wanted to rent the equipment because they had no equipment. And he said, this will be a fun family activity where we can build teamwork, And his wife looked over at him and goes, teamwork? Hell, I want to be on the other team because I want to shoot your ass.
That's funny.
Like, whoa, I don't want to get it. But they had a blast. And it was kind of a fun family activity, something out of their comfort zone, something new, but they did it together, and they did. They really built a kind of a teamwork relationship there.
Well, don't say that too loud, because my wife hears that. She's probably going to want to get involved, because there's days I'm sure she wants to shoot me.
My wife too.
Yeah, she's an amazing woman. But yeah, there's you excuse me. You've been involved in so many things, and I just admired you for so many years and the things you've accomplished and how you always have such high energy and pushing yourself, and you do public speaking as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Well, I haven't this year because of COVID-19.
Right. That's put a damper on a lot of things.
Yeah, I used to go out and do a lot of conferences on operational excellence. I have a couple books out. Most of them are text. I have 4 books out, but they're textbooks, so they're boring, except for one. It's kind of a Unleash the Leader. It's a leadership manual, how to become a leader in life. And no matter what your position is, you are a leader. You can lead from any position, whether you're at the bottom of the working line or the CEO of a corporation. It doesn't matter. We all are leaders.
Well, like I was telling you earlier, you never know when you're inspiring or helping someone and making a difference in someone's life, and you had no idea that you had changed that young man's direction into becoming what he became. I mean, that's amazing that you didn't even know that you did it. You have no idea how many times that you can be a strong positive influence in the lives of others. And I think that's what's the most important thing in life, is to be that person. And it really does give you a satisfaction inside that you've made a difference. And when I was younger, I wanted to be. I sat back and I assessed my strengths and assessed my weaknesses. I sat down one day. I'm like, okay, you've accomplished motocross. You're a pro AMA pro motocross racer. You're a level pro skier. You're doing all these things. You're modeling. You're doing all these things, but you're not really. You've got to pick. You got to pick a place. You got to find a path that you're gonna go on. Because I was bouncing around doing all these different things, and I'm like, I've got to find something that I really want to do. So I sat down one day. I'm like, okay, I can do really awesome things on bikes. I can do really awesome things on skis. I'm a pretty good dancer. I'm a pretty good vocalist. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to be an actor, and I'm going to go do my own stunts. That was my goal. Things happened. I ended up married, ended up with a disabled child. Things turned the other way. But it was when I started looking at it, it was kind of self-serving. And I'm like, it really wasn't helping anybody. And as I got older, I realized how important it is to be that person, and how much better it made me feel to when someone comes up and says, you were a positive influence on me. I was going down the wrong road. And I remember being in up by where we used to live. I was in the store one day, and back in 2011, when I first came out of my addiction, I was at a motocross track on private land, and they just happened to have troubled youth up there. It was a troubled youth camp. And the lady would let people come up there and stay for a few days, and we just happened to go up there that day. And when we first got there, Melissa was behind us with my motorcycle, and it's just me and another guy. And there was probably 15, 20 kids there. And we went over there, and it's all this, the Weber River. It's up in Peterson, and the Weber River runs right through it. And there's a place you can fish, and there's a campground, and it's really beautiful, and it's on private land. And there's a motocross track there. And the lady was letting me train there. And so we get up there and we start talking to these kids, and we're like, so what are you guys up to? What are you guys doing? And they want nothing to do with us. They're like, you guys are nerds, you don't want nothing to do with me. And then all of a sudden I see Melissa coming down the road with my bike on the back of the truck, on a trailer. Mm-hmm. And they start looking over there, and they're looking at the bike, and I lean over to the guy, and he goes, you got your hands, because he knows what I want to do with my life. He knows that I want to help kids stay away from drugs, and that's my main goal in life, is to dig the problem out by the root before it becomes a problem. It's like a sticker bush. If you let it go, it turns into, your whole yard's a mess. And that's the same thing with addiction. So you got to dig it out by the root. So, that's my number one purpose, why I'm doing all this. And so he leans over and he says, you got your hands full with what you want to do, because these kids don't want nothing to do with you. And I go, watch this. So I start gearing up, putting on all my stuff, and they're watching. And I get over there, and I'll add some pictures to this from that day. I actually have some pictures. I'll throw on, have my producer throw on some pictures. It's really cool. And I get on the track, and I'm just soaring. I'm flying out, doing all these tricks, and they come running over. And Melissa's, my wife's there. Everybody's just going crazy. They're all lined up along the jumps, and I'm doing all this stuff. And I get done, and I pull over, and they come over there. That was so cool. And they all were getting ready to leave when we got there. And by this time it was dark, and they're like, we got to go. And they're like, they wanted to stay and hang out with me. Mm-hmm. And anyways, the night ended, and a few months later, I was up at my daughter's work at the Chevron station, and I noticed this kid staring at me, and I'm like, why is this kid staring at me? And he kept staring at me, and my daughter's like, can I help you? And she goes, no, I'm good. And I'm like, he keeps looking at me, and it's kind of starting to make me a little bit nervous, I'm like, why does he keep staring at me? And so, anyways, when I start to leave, he walks out with me and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "is your name Shane or Sean or something? And you ride motocross?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I got to tell you a little story." He goes, "You were up on your motorcycle in Peterson last year, wasn't you?" And I says, "Yeah." And he goes, "I was one of those kids." He goes, "When you got there," he goes, "15 minutes before you got there, my buddy and I was in that shed over there doing heroin."
Oh no.
And he goes, after you left, he goes, "My buddy and I looked at each other and said, we are not going to go down this road." And he goes, "My buddy just got married, is in college." He goes, "I went back to college." He goes, "I'm getting my degree in civil engineering." And I was just floored that I had made that kind of an impact on someone's life.
Yeah.
And it made me, that's when I realized what I was doing mattered, and what I was put on this earth to do, and what I have to do.
Like you said, we never know whose lives we're touching and when, and I think if you feel like you're down in the dumps, and this is to whoever's listening to the podcast, if you feel like you're down in the dumps, the most important thing you can do is help someone else. Because when you help someone else, you help yourself out. So I know we're running low on time, but my challenge to everybody is that daily, get on your knees and pray.
All right.
And the most important thing you can pray for is, Lord, send someone into my path today that I can help.
Exactly.
And if we all do that, if we're all every day going out there looking for someone to help, the world's going to be a better place.
It will be. Well, I appreciate coming on, Stan. You're an amazing friend, amazing man. You've done so many things in your life. And like I said, even with your son and what you've done in his life, I mean, you've touched so many people's life. You've touched mine. You've made a difference in so many people's life. And that's why I wanted you on the podcast, because, I just, I just knew you were the guy, and what you've done in so many people's lives. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Anytime you need a substitute stand-in, well, I got lots of stories.
Well, that'd be great. Let's do it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll have this out soon, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We love you guys. Take care, and we'll see you soon.